Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Apex Racing TV, and welcome back to the Radical Esports Cup. This is round number 10 of this season, coming to you today from VIR. My name is Ron Mullins, subbing in for J.R. Gregory this week, Aaron Smith joining me in the commentary booth, and Josh Wilkie working on the cameras in the virtual production hauler. This is a very odd position, Aaron. It's the first time I've been on one of these broadcasts since the VIR for, I think, round 4 of this season. But this series is always an absolute hoot, and is going to continue my streak of doing at least one of these broadcasts for every single season since 2023 Season 1. So, always a pleasure to be a part of this broadcast, and always a pleasure to cover Radical action at such a fantastic racetrack like VIR. It is a wonderful ride in the world of motorsports, a track with a fantastic storyline to it as well, but these drivers are going to give us one fantastic show around a racetrack with a whole lot of corners, which are going to be really tough to manage in these Radical SR10 race cars. But he got that back straight away as well, which is going to be such a good overtaking opportunity that these drivers are definitely going to use. So to pass this off, Aaron, what are your thoughts heading into this race?
Well, I think VIR is a fantastic track for racing. It has been, well, pretty much ever since the track opened many, many moons ago. And it's continued to do that all the way up until the modern day. And it's no different in sim either. I've witnessed many, many great battles over the years, and many great heartbreaks as well. The last time I think I did a broadcast at VIR, it was a Formula 4 race, I think earlier this year, and on the last lap I think about 4 cars who were fighting for the lead all crashed into one another, so that was entertaining. Let's hope we don't get something like that today, and we can just get some good clean racing for these 14 laps. But it's Radicals, it's VIR, so who knows? Castro already popping up the times into the 140s, and Barry matches that, just beating him by about half a tenth there. And I was really expecting Castro to hold on to a provisional pole there, but Barry giving him a run for his money. And not too many people can say they've done that this season. Castro has just been on it, and I can imagine at another one of his home tracks here at VIR, he'll want to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, Andre Castro has been an incredible driver to follow all throughout this season. He's been dicing with victories all throughout this season. Really tough that we're not really seeing him contend for the official championship here for Season 4 of 2024. But nevertheless, this is a driver who we definitely have to keep our eyes on. James Berry, another fantastic racer in this series. Those two usually in a league of their own. You can see it just in terms of lap times they're sent. Barry and Castro both in the 1 minute 40.8 territory, with only 0.05 of a second separating those two racers at the top of this qualifying order at this point. So this is a really good storyline that we are definitely going to be keeping our tabs on all throughout the rest of this race. I gotta say one thing as well, you know, a lot of these drivers are gonna be contending for this race, winning, contending for maybe even an overall championship. Just look at James Berry leading that overall championship at this moment. But some of these drivers are focusing on something a bit more different, something big coming here to Apex Racing TV, that being the Radical World Finals here for 2024. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up this Sunday in just 2 days' time, it is going to be action with some of the best Radical SR10 racers on the iRacing platform, battling for some wins and some pretty good prizes as well. Aaron and I are going to be on the call for that broadcast this upcoming Sunday, so we will tell you about that and then some for what's going to be a really good day of racing action. But here's the starting grid. James Berry going to be starting from the pole. Andre Castro in second. Andres Friedrich going to be starting this race in third. Franco Sanchez going to join him on the second row. Tom Euler in fifth. Havard Golikson starting this race from the 6th position. Paki Caruso in 7th. Miguel Lopez starting this race from 8th. Mika Hulkinen in 9th. Sally Ryan completing an all-finish row 5. Then looking through, we have Kettle Larson starting this race in 11th. Alonso Regalardo starting this race in 12th. Then we have Alexander Scaret starting in 13th. George Gonzaga in 14th. Chris Wetz in 15th. Dennis Kyriakopoulos in 16th. Kim Andre Björkla in P17. Jay Lawrence starting this race from the 18th position. Lucas Cortez in 19th. Myron Ianni in 20th. And Christopher Yanakis starting this race at the back of the grid in 21st. Waiting for some more drivers to line up on this starting grid. These drivers are going to be paying a little bit more attention to this race because, as we just heard, it is going to play host to 2 of the Radical World Finals races this upcoming Sunday. And what a track to pick as well, with 17 numbered corners, really like in the mid-20s if you don't count the corners that are marked as like 6A or 14A or whatever. It is a wonderful ride in the world of motorsports, though, do not get me wrong, with some absolutely historic sections. A track that was originally built all the way back in the 50s and ran back then, was abandoned for a brief period of time, but it's back, it's here, and it's a wonderful motorsports edifice, ready to get things up and rolling from this race. The 5 lights are on, the drivers are on their way. That is a tremendous start from the 3rd place starter there. Look at that, Andres Friedrich, the German in the number 2 car, threading the needle, going 3 wide, hang down into turn number 1. Doesn't look like he's going to get the move done on Barry as he leads him off into turn number 1. However, side by side still is Andres Friedrich and Andre Castro, looking at some drivers side by side a little bit farther in the back. Drivers already getting some moves done. Sally Ryan up 2 spots. Kim Andre Björkla up 2 spots as well. Christopher Yanakis starting this race at the back. He's already made up 2 positions as well. But Andres Friedrich with an absolute flyer, trying to get some moves done. I think there's some major smoke heading off into turn number 4 a couple of moments ago. But as they head through the snake section under the bridge into the S as a first time by, most of the field making it through clean.
Well, not most of the field, everyone has, which is incredible to say. Here on the Radical Series, it's quite rare that that happens, but fair enough to all 21 of our drivers. And Friedrich really got an amazing jump, as all of you saw, completely caught James and Castro off guard. But I think, knowing Friedrich, he just isn't aggressive enough and thinks long term about these things. and just chose safety rather than actually trying to go 3 wide into turn 1. But look at that perfect clutch control and blast his way past these two, and briefly did take the lead, but just going into that first corner, he broke a little bit early. And like I said, Friedrich, a very, very consistent driver, one who very rarely gets himself involved in accidents. And I think there's some smoke in the background. I think that's just some cars locking up. It is a track which is quite easy to lock up, meaning you have to run quite aggressive brake bias, which can just make this car very hellish to drive if you're not careful. Gullickson already in the pit lane is Castro, looking for a move on James Barry round the outside of turn 1. Not going to work there. Very little grip on that outside line. It's very difficult to get a move done there. But it's, apart from Gullickson, who's come into the pits, not sure why, everyone's still very, very close to one another, which is such good. Oh, that's very close between Regaldo and Scaret. But yeah, like I was going to say, it's very, very good to see all drivers still close together on this second lap.
And we just saw it put on full display a couple of moments ago with that fight with Regalado and Scaret heading off through the first few corners of this lap. They didn't single file out until they hit turn number 3 of NASCAR Benz, so that really shows you that this racetrack, it's going to produce some pretty epic racing all throughout. So I'm sure these drivers looking to try and keep it on the racetrack as Andre Castro running wide coming through South Bend of turn number 10 in that dirty air of James Berry's race car. Now these Radical SR10s, I've always felt that they have a bit more like front light understeer. It feels like there's not a lot of weight over that front axle, so it's a real tough car to manage. But going on these straightaways, it is so good to try and get a move done. The draft oh so powerful in these race cars. You can see Castro braking 165 miles an hour, nearly up into the 170s, getting that move done on Barry, heading off into the corner, but they make contact and he's off the track. Both of them are off the track. Castro and Barry with a big amount of trauma heading off into the roller coaster bend at the end of the back straightaway. That's going to send Barry off the track, careening his way down the running order, now slotted down in 8th. Gotta say though, the drivers who get the short end of the stick in that regard, Andre Castro was the one that got bit by the bullet badly. He's now down to 14th. It was a move that he could have done successfully, tried to get done successfully. It was going so well for so long that it went so badly so quickly.
Yeah, I really do need to see another angle of that again, because so much happened within just about half a second. I think it was Castro being very, very aggressive when he briefly took the lead, and Barry was still on the outside. I don't think Castro quite noticed it. This is earlier on when he got that little bit of understeer into turn 10 and just about kept it on the road. And then as we come through the oak tree corner, sadly the oak tree isn't there anymore. Really wish it would come back and they just grow a new one. But coming down this very long straight, we know how powerful the slipstream is in this car. And like you said, Ron, hitting 165 miles an hour, which is unheard of. And then he pulls out, this corner narrows up, and he just... You see him dancing towards the inside of the corner, but James is still there. So it's a tough one. I think you'd probably put the blame more on Castro there, as he still had a huge chunk of space on the outside. But that corner, it's difficult to leave space on the outside because you're kind of just conceding the position at that point. But at the end of the day, it's better to concede a position and live to fight another day than to drop down to 14th. And here's a view from James's perspective, and hopefully we can get a bit of a better view of what it looked like from his perspective. And yeah, I don't think there was much James could have done there. He was on the outside and just avoiding the tyre barrier as well.
Yeah, that was a matter of millimeters between himself and a small little bit of tire barrier contact, which would absolutely destroy his chances of doing well in this race. Gotta say, though, in reference to that incident, I'm with you there, Aaron. It looked like Castro kind of tried to meander his way off, taking a very shallow line through turn 14, setting himself up badly for 14A, as we just saw a little bit of contact go on in this hard fighting with Regalado and Bjorklund. They nearly came to blows about 7 times in the span of the past 15 seconds, so that could have ended in absolute tears for both of those drivers. But getting back to that incident with Barry and Castro, just took a shallow line hang through turn number 14. He really had nowhere else to go unless he yanked that wheel and maybe even spun out on his own. But either way, it's a tough incident for two very fast racers in these Radical SR10s. Of those two drivers, though, the one who got away with it fairly scot-free outside of a lot of lost time has to be James Berry, is still 3.5 seconds off of the leader, who's now Andreas Friedrich. So he's not out of this race. I mean, he has a whole lot of time to make up. But again, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be James Berry. He's leading the official standings, is he reigning official champion, and is also the 2024 Radical European Championship here. All those races being broadcasted on Apex Racing TV for this past season. But Berry is a fantastic racer in these Radical SR10s, but he's still got a fight on his hands trying to make up those spots as we see nearly 3-wide action hang down into the roller coaster.
Well, they don't call it a roller coaster for nothing. And, well, we've already seen plenty of incidents happen there already. Are we going to see any more over the next 10 laps? Oh, my God, we've got another 10 laps. Jesus Christ. Got a long way to go in this race still. A lot of chances for people to gain places and also plenty of chances to lose them as well, as we've seen time and time again today already, as Yanakis, one of the drivers who's made some decent progress after starting at the back, he's up to 14th place, up 7 places. It could get better for him if he carries on his progress like he is. Castro's also up to 10th now, up from 14th a few laps ago. Barry is slowly gaining back on the lead, but still has a few cars in front of him to make his way through. And it's just, I think this lap we might get a brief break in the top half of the field in terms of action. But at the back, it doesn't seem like it's going to be taking a break anytime soon, as Bjorklund and Regaldo still going at each other's necks with a knife by the looks of it. They've been very aggressive with one another so far in this race. And Bjorklund did manage to get past Regaldo in the end, but coming through Oak Tree onto this back straight, very, very powerful slipstream in these cars. I would not be surprised if we saw Regaldo try and go for another move. And, well, talking of moves, here's Friedrich losing the lead to Sanchez, who looked like he was nearly four-wheel drifting his way through the roller coaster. As, well, there you go, there is Regaldo actually losing a place to Yanakis, who's up now to 13th. He's really on a charge today. And Barry also got himself up into 5th. And Sanchez, like we saw there, taking the lead. Friedrich looked like he wasn't going to fight that one too much. And to be honest, after having seen Barry and Castro have their incident, I can imagine he's going to be a little bit tentative as he's still trying to fight for that win.
We're going to take a look at a replay of this move that Franco Sanchez put on Andres Friedrich just a couple of moments ago. Heading down the back straightaway, the drift, oh so powerful. And unlike what Castro did, Sanchez going for the move around the outside, Clareman being able to kiss that inside curb through turn number 14. That was how Franco Sanchez got the lead of this race, and he just withstood a challenge from Andres Friedrich hanging off into turn number 1 a couple of moments ago to hold on to the lead. Gotta say, at this point in time, though, it is very much a 4-car battle. Got Sanchez, Friedrich, Tom Euler, and Paki Caruso covered by barely any air. Only 0.6 of a second separating these drivers, heading their way off through South Bend of turn number 10 for the 6th time in this race. You can see Caruso sawing at the wheel. That's one thing with these drivers. They take some very odd approaches, unconventional, if you would, approaches towards steering these race cars around this racetrack, trying to solve those front tires and get any sort of heat and movement that they possibly can. And occasionally you can see some drivers have some off-track encounters. I think there may have been one not terribly long ago, possibly involving Scarrett. We'll touch on that a little bit. Meanwhile, Sanchez and Friedrich side by side, adding it to roller coaster. Who's going to prevail? Friedrich going to have that inside line, gonna shuffle Sanchez at, who I think just got a small little tap to the German of Euler, so that was near a disaster for the drivers now running in 2nd and 3rd, but Friedrich putting the move that Sanchez put on him. However, he ran wide coming out of Hog Pen, so he's gonna have a terrible run going on to the start-finish straightaway. Sanchez already side by side with him. Look at Euler, though. Euler may go for a move, so let's look at what the German does on his fellow German of Friedrich. Now look at Paki Caruso trying to wheel down the inside of Euler, heading off into turn number 1. Euler in the 11 car, he nearly had an opportunity to take the lead. He's now going to drop down to 4th as Friedrich and Sanchez still side by side, heading off through the mid-sector into turn number 3. It looks like Sanchez going to withstand that challenge for now.
Well, this is some great battling for the top 4, but it may turn into the top 5 or even 6 within a few laps' time, as Barry now has managed to catch up by a second on that last lap. It just goes to show how hard fought these guys are battling, and they're still going on side by side as we go through this tight and twisty part of the track. And Sanchez, very good car control. That looked like it was going sideways. And, well, it's inadvised to go side by side through there. And, well, you just saw why it can get very dicey. Not really wide enough for 2 motorcycles, let alone 2 cars. But they managed to just about get away with it. Friedrich being very aggressive as we come towards the S's. And I don't think they make contact. I think that might have been a bit of net code. Or potentially Sanchez just thinking, oh, God, I'm not doing this, and backing out of it. But now it just calmed down on that last lap. Is that Barry going wide? It might have been. He's just lost to Lopez once again, and they've just lost a huge chunk of time to the leaders. That's not what they wanted at all. They were right on the back of this pair, and perhaps Lopez and Barry maybe getting involved in their own battles, and Barry's actually flashing one of the cars ahead, so we can see what happened. And yeah, Barry was right on the back of him. And into this corner. Oh, was it a bit of a nudge? It was from Lopez. And unfortunately, that's what's caused them to lose a huge chunk of time. I wonder why Barry was flashing the cars ahead. Maybe Caruso and Euler checked up and broke early. I'm not sure. But either way, they've lost a big chunk of time now. 2 seconds behind Caruso. So once again, Barry's going to have to do that catching up all over again. As Reitinen, I believe, had an incident a few laps ago and is just dropping like a fly out of this race. And now down to 13th.
Yeah, that is a really tough run for him at this point in time. Gotta say, wrapping a bow around that storyline involving the Barry and Miguel Lopez contact not terribly long ago. Miguel apologizes. We see a slide there from Mika Hulkinen heading off through turn number 4 and 5 a little bit ago. Looking back to the point I was going to mention in reference to Miguel Lopez apologizing to James Barry as a result of that contact heading off into the roller coaster. That could have been the light flashing, just having the rear lights of these race cars flash a little bit to acknowledge the apology, as that's a moment for Reinen heading off into Oak Tree. And oh, he had a driver join him off there. Was that Castro going off? I think that may have been. I saw that there was some shuffling around going on a little bit farther in the midfield. So I think that may have been what caused it, but either way, Castro having a pretty tough and scrappy race. Now up to 7, so pretty good recovery drive for a driver who found himself outside the top 10 not terribly long ago. Gotta say, we have had a little bit of attrition thus far in this race as Kyriakopoulos and Myron Iandi are out of it along with Gullickson, but here is a side-by-side fight with Sanchez and Friedrich heading off into turn number 1. Friedrich on that inside line, Sanchez wheeling it on the outside, Caruso nearly running off the track a little bit farther in the back, Sanchez nearly running off into the dirt coming out of the corner. You can see that jut out as they come out of turn 1. The track sort of bottlenecks as they head off into turn number 2. Nearly caught out Sanchez. He nearly took the lead of the race yet again. However, Andres Friedrich fight hard to take the lead in the number 2 car. And there's a well-composed drive that we're seeing right now from Andres Friedrich, because in seasons past, Aaron, I feel like you can remember this considering about a year ago when we were doing these broadcasts, Friedrich was a fast racer. However, occasionally he would have bouts of inconsistency that would really come back to bite him on the hind end. So really seeing a well-composed drive from Andres Friedrich, remaining patient, remaining calm, and it's working out for him right now as he's got about a 0.6 of a second lead between himself and Sanchez. But again, with this long back straightaway, that gap can disappear in a heartbeat.
I think some drivers are really struggling at this VIR track. We've seen a lot of mistakes and incidents already in this race, which usually we don't, at least for this season anyway. It's been relatively clean, relatively good from all the drivers, but today at VIR, I don't know if it's the fixed setup that maybe has just been a bit iffy or just the nature of VIR, but people are really struggling here. A lot of small mistakes, some bigger than others, as Reitinen, his race is just getting worse and worse. He's now down to 14th place. And, well, after Reitinen, was, I believe, in like 8th or 7th at one point. It really is just getting more and more painful for the Finnish driver. And it just got worse as Wets made his way on by there. And now down to 15th is the Finnish driver, who we know is one of the better drivers, more experienced in this entire lobby. But unfortunately just hasn't gone his way today and fights back with Wets and gains that place back. But I can't imagine it's going to be too much consolation for Reitinen, who is still down in 14th, as Friedrich struggling a little bit coming out of turn 6 there through the snake and now into the S's. Is Sanchez going to try and similar move that he tried on Sanchez a few laps ago? and it is so difficult to follow another car through here. And even Friedrich, who's not following anyone, seems to be struggling through there. Very harsh braking through here into Oak Tree Corner. And you have to be so precise through there. And we saw a few laps ago, Rysonen really messing it up and going wide, and that pretty much ruined his entire race. But these guys just about making their way through, weaving like a madman on this back straight. It's pretty much all you can do. I imagine Friedrich feeling rather helpless right now. How aggressive is Sanchez going to be? Not very on this occasion. And, we're on lap 10, just about to go on 11. There's a bit of smoke in the background. I think that was a car locking up there, as Sanchez actually has managed to pull alongside Friedrich, which is a bit surprising. Heading into those final few corners, and I think something's happened between those two. As now Tom Euler has magically taken the lead of the race. And, something did happen to Friedrich and Sanchez, who may have had contact coming through those final few corners, and Friedrich now having to come into the pits. Wonder if that's for damage or a penalty, and Sanchez has fallen to 5th. So they both went side by side through those final few corners, which is ill-advised, and we can take a look at what on earth happened. As Friedrich, he got a big snap of oversteer coming through turn 15. They go side by side. That's a big whack.
That is a messy incident for sure. Towards the end of that lap, Friedrich taking a one-way trip to that outside tire barrier. That's going to take him out of contention. My intention was on Packy Caruso, who was losing time like it was going out of style. He was creating a little bit of drama a little bit farther in the back. That was heading off through turn number 14 of Roller Coaster that drama ensued. But this is the main drama that we have here. Friedrich getting mega sideways, heading down the hill through turn number 13. That's the opportunity. Oh, boy. Oh, yeah, that's... I think that's really just two cars fighting for the same piece of real estate in a section of racetrack where there's really just no opportunity at all to try and go side by side. It was through turn 15 that he got sideways. I misspoke and called turn 13 earlier on. But Sanchez having a sideways snap right as Friedrich was trying to set himself up for a good run through Hog Pen, and it just ends in absolute disaster for Friedrich. That whack to the outside barrier, that is major damage on that race car. That's going to take him out of contention. So it's now Tom Euler comfortably in the lead of this race over Miguel Lopez, who's now inherited second. Packy Caruso and James Berry running at the top 4 as it stands at the moment. But right now they're side by side looking at Caruso, maybe trying to get a move done on Lopez as well. Berry looking to follow in suit. They're nearly 3 wide. They aren't 3 wide. Coming out of the corner, holy cow. Lopez going to hold on to P2 for the moment. Berry slipping into 3rd, Caruso dropping back. I think there's some sort of damage on the Italian's race car because he has been losing time like it's going out of style. So I think there must be something going on with that number 9 Radical because he has just been leading pace. There's no other way we can put it. His best lap of the race is at a 1:40.9. His last lap was at 1:42.2. And bearing in mind, tire fall off can be a thing, and a lot of the drivers are probably dealing with it. That loss of pace is pretty dramatic, and it's been pretty consistent as well.
I don't think I've seen a race this messy or scrappy from these guys all season long. And, well, you just talked about Caruso. That's one way to make your race worse, as he's just gone very deep at Oak Tree, and he's now dropped down to 6th place. And I think it's just a case of just braking too late into that corner. You can see through South Bend there, already struggling, taking it very easy. Oh, yeah, that's definitely damage. Yep. That's 100% something wrong there. I don't know if that was actual car damage or some kind of mechanical failure on his end, as he's just made another incident for himself, and I think something has definitely happened to Caruso in the outside world, not in sim. I think something's definitely gone wrong for him, as his car is just disintegrating, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls off into the pits, and he does. It's definitely not safe for him to be out on the track at the moment, as Larson now fighting with Yanakis, and Yanakis, who I was just about to say making fantastic progress. That is very messy.
Christ.
Come on, Christopher. He just plowed through about 3 or 4 cars there. And I literally, it was on the tip of my tongue. I was about to say, oh, he's making fantastic progress in this race. And then goes and takes 3 other people out. And, well, we can see what on earth happened there. He was making a brilliant move on, I believe this is Larson, and then just goes too deep and crashes into Scarrett there.
3, 4,
And, yep.
5.
He crashes
5.
into 3 cars, or 4 including himself, in the space of about 3 seconds. So, and that's a car on the outside, Regaldo, who was one of the cars who he did make contact with. And Gonzaga making his way through as well on Yanakis. And, well, I said about a minute ago that this has been one of the most scrappy and messy races I've seen from these guys all season. And, well, this just backs up my point even more. And it was a very good move until Scarrett turned up. And then there's Regaldo, and then there's Larson. Honestly, these guys have really, really not gelled well at all with this Virginia International Raceway track. And it's entertaining, don't get me wrong, but we're seeing some of the best drivers, some of the most higher rated we've seen in this car for a long, long time. Castro, Barry, Friedrich, Caruso, Scarrett, Rysonen, Yanakis. They all can't keep it on the road.
Yeah, I tried counting it through my head. I'm not sure if it was picked up, but it was 5 incidents. 5 bits of contact for Christopher Yanakis heading off through turn number 1. That's a little bit of frustration boiling over for him. An overall messy incident. They're going to take a look at a replay of a moment not terribly long ago. This involving Tom Euler. So here is the replay. His view of that incident with Friedrich and Sanchez. The seas parting, essentially, for Tom Euler in that number 11 car. He's on the white flag, so only about half a lap left to go for him to take the victory in this race. And I gotta say, it was not a result he probably had in mind, but hey, I don't think he's going to turn it down one bit. But in a race full of drama, full of attrition, and full of drivers crashing into each other as if they don't even have to worry about fixing their own race cars, it looks like it's going to be won by Euler, which is a little bit of a shock considering the drama that he's had all throughout this race. And the drama that's been up towards the front, which is still far from over. Lopez and Barry side by side heading through roller coaster of turn number 14, nearly making contact as they head through 15 right now. Looks like Lopez going to get that move done on Barry to slip his way up into second. May have a photo finish brewing between those two drivers. But looking at the front, Tom Euler in the number 11 car going to cross that start-finish line in just a couple of moments' time. The winner from the 10th race of this season. A very well composed drive from the German. It's not the photo finish that I thought we may have gone with Lopez and Barry. However, it's still close, only about 0.2 of a second separating those two race car drivers after 14 laps of racing action here at VIR. And man, that was about as hectic as these radical races can get. I mean, we had the drama with Barry and Sanchez, Barry and Castro earlier on. Then we had the drama with Castro and Friedrich, but Tom Euler just keeping his nose to the grindstone, being in the background in all of that. And even the driver who's up towards the front throughout a decent chunk of the race, Packy Caruso, he ends up all the way down in 17th as a result of some of those collisions that he had and a run through the pits as well. So Euler just playing the patient game, playing the waiting game all throughout this race, making up 4 spots from start to finish, giving him one of the hard charger positions, a hard charger actually being Christopher Yanakis, who ends up finishing 7 spots up from where he started in this race. Euler with a very well-composed drive in that number 11 car to take the victory.
Well, Tom is pretty much the only driver in this entire lobby who can say that he wasn't involved in anything. He kept his nose clean and won because of it, and that's just what happens sometimes in motorsport. You do nothing all race and you somehow managed to win. You just sat in 4th for about 5 or 6 laps, and then everyone in front of him just killed each other, and he just said thank you very much, drove on by, and got his first victory that I've seen in this series at all. So congratulations to Tom. I'm sure he's going to be very, very pleased with that result. Apart from every other driver, all 20 of them in fact, they're all going to be a bit annoyed, as I wouldn't be surprised if some of them hit the incident limit, judging by how they were driving.
Okay, I'm not sure if my laugh just got picked up on the microphone a couple of moments ago. I'm not going to say what driver typed this out in the iRacing chat, but one driver in this series said, I hope Yanakis steps on a Lego. That, I think, without a question or shadow of a doubt, has to be one of the most creative clapbacks I've ever heard on my time on iRacing, which stretches a couple of years for that matter. So that is well done to that driver. I will not say their name. However, I will say that their name starts with a K and ends with Imandre Bjorklund. So well done, Imandre Bjorklund, on a very creative insult. I think he was involved in that drama, so that kind of makes sense. And, I mean, in fairness, I guess I can kind of say this since it's kind of a one-off. I'm not on these broadcasts as much as I used to. Inakis did kind of hit anything but the hot dog stand hang through turn number 1, so can't really blame some drivers for being upset with him. He was still the hard charger, though, and showed a whole lot of pace outside that clumsy incident through turn number 1. But here's the results. Tom Mueller going to win when everything is said and done. 1.9 seconds back is Miguel Lopez, who finishes in P2. James Berry going to round out your podium in 3rd. Then we have Franco Sanchez in 4th. Andre Castro in P5, Mika Hulkinen finishing this race in 6th, Alexander Scaret in 7th, Jorge Gonzaga, I say Jorge, I believe it is George Gonzaga, based off chat with him that I had after a broadcast a couple of weeks ago. So it's George Gonzaga finishing this race in 8th, Kettle Larson going to finish in 9th, Chris Wetz going to round out your top 10.
Wow, I mean, we can hopefully get a chat with most of our drivers at some point, because I just want to know what on earth they're thinking after these 14 laps here at VIR. And honestly, I'm starting to think that we should just come here every week, because that has to be probably my favourite race of this season, because it was just insane. I mean, obviously as a driver, they're going to be annoyed to hear this, but seeing drivers struggling to get to grips with a car and track combination makes for some really damn good racing and some very, very entertaining racing as well. A lot of crashes, a lot of spins, and some good, bold overtakes. Half of them didn't work in the end, but it was great fun. And I hope that people after this race can calm down and watch this broadcast back and realise just how brilliant it was. And at the moment, James Barry is the only one who seems to want to talk to us. And I'm surprised, considering that he was involved in about 2 or 3 incidents today, and still managed to finish on the podium. So do you want to take this one, Ron?
I certainly will bring in James Berry to have a quick little chat at the end of this broadcast. And now, James Berry, that was a really scrappy one from pretty much everyone on that starting grid. So talk us through what looked like a really attrition-packed race at VIR.
Yeah, it was just crazy, wasn't it? Everyone has been talking all week about how difficult it is to drive the car here this week. Partly maybe setup, partly maybe track temps. I think it's just how the car is really at a track like this. And yeah, as you saw there, I mean, so many incidents, so much going on. I got caught up in it at the start and made my way back through. Took advantage of what happened and then made my own mistake right at a crucial moment. So yeah, a really weird race.
Yeah, it was a very odd one to be sure. VIR, a kind of track where you expect that side-by-side fighting, especially with that back straightaway, and that was kind of what led to the incident with yourself and Castro. Looked like hard battling gone wrong between you two. Is it hard battling into a section like that? Because it's usually you'd think hard braking zone at the end of a long straightaway in a draft-heavy race car. You'd think that's going to be a match made in heaven, but as I've seen in the past with this series and as we saw today, occasionally you can have those sort of incidents happen. So talk us through the challenge of having a side-by-side fight off into turn 14 around here.
Yeah, it's a weird one because obviously it's a deep braking zone, but you have to treat it like a kink, a not straight braking zone because the track bends left. And if you're the car on the left there, you got to leave space on the inside. And if you carry on a straight line, then you're going to end up closing that space in the braking zone. And then that causes what happened there with that incident. So, you got to be a bit smarter than that, I think. And yeah, you saw what happened. So it is what it is.
You gotta be walking around on eggshells with an attempted maneuver into that corner, but we got a whole lot of racetracks in the Americas to bring this season to a close, entering this round with the lead in the overall championship, looking to try and go back-to-back. So the next race of the season going to be at Road America. So what are your thoughts heading into that one?
Regarding the championship, it's interesting. I've been on top, but I've had more races than someone like Andre, for example, who's been getting a huge amount of points. So it's going to be pretty close, I think, in the championship. And as for America, I remember last season's race there was one of the craziest I've been in as well. It was a crazy draft race. I think I got second. I think it was Christoph Lipp who won that one, and everyone behind him, we were just battling for the whole race. I remember it was like 9 cars in line with each other, nose to tail. So if it's anything like last season's race, yeah, it's going to be another one to be worth tuning into here.
And we also got the World Finals coming up this weekend, entering that as the European Championship winner here from for the 2024 season. So going to be running here at VIR and Interlagos for that. So are you going to be there for the World Finals? And if so, what are your thoughts heading into that?
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I'm enjoying this track at the moment. Clearly, I had a really good pace today. Hopefully I can continue that on Sunday. And I mean, it's crazy in the World Finals, like, you know, with it only being 2 races, you have to kind of not only do a great job yourself, but then obviously have the rub off the green in a way with anything else that happens around you if you want to have a chance of winning. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going into it with too many expectations, but at the same time, obviously I'm gonna, with the pace I had today, I can only hope to try and be at the front.
Well, I'm sure you're going to give us a fantastic fight for those World Finals this upcoming Sunday. Of course, going to be broadcasted here on Apex Racing TV. James, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary booth. And before we let you go and get a bit more practice time in for that race this upcoming weekend, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
I'll shout out Tom for his win there. He got a huge amount of points, and I don't know, it might be his first win in the broadcast, so hats off to him. And also the guy who came second, Miguel. I've not seen him before, but he did well there to get that P2, so yeah, shout out to them.
Alrighty, there you go. James, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth, and excited to have a chat with you, maybe for the World Finals, if not a Sunday after that, but we don't speak about that on record, and excited to see you wherever it is in the not-too-distant future, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, cheers. Hopefully so. See you guys, bye.
And that right there was James Berry, who's going to be a contender in that World Finals race this upcoming weekend. And now, Aaron, I think we got some a little bit more time to bring in our friend and colleague here at Apex Racing TV, your usual lead commentator here for the Radical Esports Cup, that being JR. So, Aaron, would you like to have a chat with your usual co-commentator before we wrap things up here?
I mean, I can try if JR is still there. We can bring in JR Gregory and have a quick chat. I guess we've got some time. So, of course, Gregory, we didn't manage to see your race, but how did it go?
You know, it was pretty fun, man. It's the Radical SR10 and VIR is a great kart track combo. You know, I've heard the nickname of VIR being American Nordschleife, and it's certainly apt. It's narrow, it's winding, it's tricky, it has some nasty curbs. But overall, pretty good race. My race was pretty clean, but I will say I'm looking forward to watching the broadcast because once again, Aaron, you probably recall that race that you and I called from Portimao with where the setup seemed a little too stiff in the rear, and this one felt much the same, a little bit too much rear bar and very tricky to put the power down and very tricky to keep the car on track.
Well, I think you're going to be kicking yourself for not commentating on this race because this has been my favourite race of the season. When you watch it back, you'll realise. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil everything because that's not who I am. You'll just get a live reaction of everything that went down. But are you going to be trying next week's race as well, or will you actually be here with me?
Oh no, I'll be back in the booth, and Ron and I were kind of conspiring. Of course, you and Ron are calling that world final race of the Radical Sim Racing Championship on Sunday, and I'm driving in that, and that will involve VIR and Interlagos. So we had kind of this scheme to kind of hype his race and get me some seat time heading into that race at VIR, but I did not make the top split. I'm a lowly 2.0 I rating. The fast guy in my split was 3 point something, so I was not even close, and definitely looking forward to watching the coverage of that top split at VIR.
Yeah, it'll be great fun for you to watch that back. But thank you for coming, having a quick chat with us, JR, and hope to see you back here next week.
Absolutely, Aaron. We'll see you then.
And that right there was Mr. J.R. Gregory. Always nice to have a chat with him. A fine and great man. It was always a privilege being with him on these broadcasts. And Aaron, before JR and I were on these broadcasts together, you and I were on these broadcasts together, and that was like the first ever like series I really sunk my teeth into. So a little bit odd returning here, but still this season and this series is always fantastic. These Radical SR10s, despite the fact they may be a little bit tough to try and manage at times, they still put on some brilliant racing week in and week out, and this season has been no exception. But the World Finals coming up this Sunday. I don't know about you, Aaron, but with the racing that we just had here at VIR, I am really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so am I. And to think that we're going to have, of course, those 2 rounds at VIR and Interlagos. I love Interlagos. It's such a great track, always good racing. But now that I've seen what we have today, I'm excited for both now. It's going to be a great time on Sunday. And I will definitely not be missing that one. It's going to be really, really good to watch for, I think it's about 3 hours. So that's going to be very entertaining.
Yeah, 3 hours and 15 minutes, I believe, to be a bit more precise. Of course, all of that isn't going to be just one race. We got 4 races and some of the Radical SR10's best on the world of iRacing competing for some great prizes and some bragging rights from the 2024 season, whether it be some champions in the Americas Championship or the European Championship. We have got a stacked grid of racers and a whole lot to look forward to this upcoming Sunday here on Apex Racing TV. That gives you some good enough reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of the action here on Apex. But I think for today's broadcast of the Radical Esports Cup at VIR, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Mons, Aaron Smith joining me in the commentary booth, J.R. Gregory swapping out the microphone for a steering wheel and doing pretty alright in that split that he was a part of, and Josh Wilkie doing a mighty fine job working on the cameras in the virtual production hauler. I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your night, and remember to stay tuned for the Radical World Finals this upcoming Sunday, because I think that's going to be a whole lot of fun. Take care, everybody.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.